Hello and Happy New Year! It's 2021 and I am Laina Orlando. And I'm creating this video because I wanted to share with you the lessons that I have gleaned from 2020. And boy, did I go deep inside and have to do some readjusting, have to get myself straight with God and come into 2020 with a different perspective. But I'm really happy to share what has happened to me because I'm a teacher of spiritual principles, and if it works in my life, I am certain that I am meant to share it in case it's something that is supposed to be a nugget of information, whatever you want to call it, that might help. Even if it's just one more person, then I've done my part through sharing it. 2020 started off like every other year. I had my business plan. I had things that I was going to be doing. I hired a business coach. We were moving forward with creating all of this, incredible programs and yada, yada, yada. And then 2020 began to show the things that I felt. We had some big things coming. I just had no idea what they were going to be. And when COVID hit, I thought, great, this is a perfect time for me to help people work with their mindset and be aware that they don't have to be in fear of this thing. They have power inside of them to tap into. And what I thought, like probably most of us, well, this might be over in a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, but it lasted the remainder of the year. And here we are, 2021, and there's still talk of COVID. But then something else happened to me. I began to feel in my heart that I needed to begin to follow what was going on with Donald Trump. It was being placed in my heart to be clear about what that man was doing as part of the work that I was supposed to be doing within myself. And it was like, okay, wonderful. I listen to God. I've learned not to argue. And then something else began to happen. I got invited to participate in a gift economy. I began to see that there is a whole world of like-minded people that are giving and receiving and sharing and caring about one another. And oh my gosh, I began to realize, wow, there is already a level of consciousness that is in that fifth dimension that we're ascending to. And then, like that wasn't enough, I began to experience my own spiritual community that I had been involved in, teaching from. I began to feel that some didn't really like that I was supporting Trump. Others didn't like that I was participating in a gift economy. Some were in some of these communities were, in essence, basically, attack is too harsh of a word, but they were letting me know that they couldn't believe that I was supporting the questioning of COVID as being more than the physical or medical issue that it was. I was basically not believing that it, and still don't, that it was this big thing that was here to destroy humanity. I saw it as an opportunity, a virus for us to be able to look within, as an opportunity for us to look at our fears, as an opportunity really for us to get straight with who we are. Because as a student of A Course in Miracles, I believe that I'm not a body. And for me to harness the energy of faith that allows me to not get sick in the physical plane, I can't be entertaining fears. Those are two opposite frequencies. So I'm thinking, okay, my spiritual community isn't approving of my support of Trump, isn't approving, and I don't support everything Trump does, but there are things about what he is doing that are more in alignment with me than what Biden is proposing or has done for 47 years. So and then also with the prosperity circles that I was involved in, and all of a sudden people are being told that they have to choose whether participating in those circles that I'm involved in or staying in the spiritual community. And I thought, wow, this year is really a year for us to really clearly see what side of the line are people on. And let me talk about that line. My spiritual journey began almost, 19 years ago, 2002, 19 years ago. And it's been a journey for me to understand that we operate from two voices only. There are two choices inside of us, and that's it. Now, earlier on the journey, it appeared like there were more choices, but then it got really simple. There's only two. I'm either listening to the voice of my ego that is always instilling fear. That's it. It's instilling fear, and it's causing me to judge, to doubt, or I am listening to the voice of my soul, and it is always about love. The soul has nothing but love to share with me, and of course my ego is everything that I have been indoctrinated into believing. So this is a journey where I was learning to shift and to lift, to shift from fear and lift into love, to become aware of what my ego is all about so that I could then choose to listen to my soul. A lot of people want to teach us about connecting with our soul, living from our soul, and that is absolutely wonderful. But you cannot live from your soul if you have not faced your ego first. It's just not possible. This is the block to the awareness of the presence of soul. This is what gets in the way. This is where the darkness is. And as a student of A Course in Miracles, and one who's been teaching from the Course for many years, we all have to draw a line in the sand. When we are making a decision to shift from ego to love, for me, that line in the sand took me quite a while to create. That was a journey from 2010 to about 2016. Took me about 6 years to make that transition. So I've been grounded very firmly on this side. Now, what this journey looks like is, I call it a bridge. We are walking, making choices, one choice at a time, one shift at a time, one shift and one lift. You take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and you're moving your way, but then you make that decision where the world of matter, physical matter, ceases to have power us because we enter into the world of God, which is the world of energy. And when we got tongue-tied there for a second. So when we begin to commit to being under no laws but God's, we begin to not be under the laws of the world. You can't serve 2 masters. I mean, that's been clearly stated in the Bible for a very long time. So as I began to realize that I was playing in what I'm going to call the 5D realm versus the 3D realm, this journey is what I'm going to call the 4D world. And 4D means 4th dimension of consciousness. If everything is on a continuum, and really we're not ascending going up, this is an expansion because it's a spiral. Our expansion of our consciousness is a spiral. It's accepting more of the truth of who we are. So as I began to get really clear many years ago that the 3D world, the world of form, the world of judgment, of stuff, of mind, of money, the world of authority, external authority, where religion and government, the education system, the medical system, those systems are all external to us. All of these things that tell us what to believe, what is okay, what the laws are, what we need to know, how, our mind gets filled with information, then we can become an expert with so many years of education and high, degrees. The medical world gives us the medicine that we're supposed to take. The world of food produces food that we're supposed to ingest and put into our bodies, because this is all about controlling the human, because the human is the one in a body. So the money is about what you can get a human to buy, what you can get a human to sell. It's operating in the egoic realm of body, and it's everything external to you. Through many, many years of doing my work, what I was really doing in the beginning was I realized I was in a very small box. I was in a small box with an identity called Laina, made up of my thoughts, my beliefs, my ideas, my fears, my judgments. And little by little, this journey had me expand and build a little bigger box. Then I build a bigger box, and these boxes collapse. I build a bigger box. This box then collapses. I build a bigger box until eventually in 2010, I began, like I said, it's about 5-6 years of moving out of this box and freeing myself from what the world says is what should matter, to living inside of an awareness that I and God are one. The Course in Miracles has freed my mind. Talk about renewing my mind so that I could liberate myself, transform myself. And that is not an easy thing to do, but anybody can do it. The Course in Miracles is a course in mind training. My mind was trained through this amazing book to recognize how powerful I am, to recognize that I, like you, as a child of God, every one of us made a choice from a soul level to come into the world and have an experience in the world and believe that we're of the world and get immersed in all of this. And we've all done that. And then comes the journey of moving out of that, getting curious, unlearning what the world taught us, and moving into a level of wisdom that allows us to be in the world but not of it. So what has happened for me in 2020, which is a beautiful gift, 2020 made it really clear that I have up-leveled. The bar has been raised for me. So 2020 has been an opportunity for me to see that I no longer fit inside of the box called spirituality. It's a very limiting box, because what I saw, which was not a whole lot different than the religious box, is the level of judgment, the level of I'm right and you're wrong that is inside of that world. And I am moving for me. Have I perfected it? No, not yet. But I have been moving because I practice what the Course in Miracles teaches to become a teacher of God, as the Course calls those who are embodying what God is, which is basically to walk in this world but not of it, as Jesus did 2,000 years ago. That is to walk with a level of trust that is unshakable, and honesty that makes my walking, my talk consistent, a level of joy in my heart because there's a generosity that bubbles out of me that I found inside of those prosperity circles. That was so amazing, that there is a gentleness, that there's a defenselessness, that there's an open-mindedness, a tolerance that judges no one. When I post things on my Facebook page and my social media about my opinion, I do not expect anybody to agree with it. I don't post for you to change your mind and agree with me. I post because I'm sharing what I believe so you can see transparently where Laina stands. As one who is a teacher and has a pretty decent following, I believe transparency is the best way for me. I also believe that honesty and consistency go hand in hand, and it's the best way for me. So I'm putting out there what I believe. So if you're going to make a decision about me as a teacher that you might want to work with, you need to know everything that I'm about. I am not one of those that gets on the pulpit and preaches one thing and then does something else when I get off the pulpit. We've had plenty of that in religion. We've seen that so many times. So as I began to see that the people that I thought were all about love and light were in a state of judgment and in a state of, attacking and blaming, and how can you believe this and what's wrong with you? Especially when I was talking about COVID, because if we are trusting God, then we don't need other people's lives to be controlled. If I believe God is going to protect me with a mask, God is not interested in me being afraid of other people wearing or not wearing a mask. If I trust in God, that power is in here. And that's another thing about awakening. Power doesn't come to you from the outside. You retrieve your power from the things that you had given power to externally, but power has always been in here, either to give it to them or to keep it and harness it and extend it from within. So as I began to be really clear that I'm not a body, I am free, I am still as God created me, I am pure energy. I began to notice that the teachers who teach that we create our own reality were operating in a lot of fear. Teachers who teach about energy were basically operating as if the mask has power over them, as if a virus has power to hurt them. Now, it gave me an opportunity to really delve into my compassion, because anybody who's afraid is living inside of a fear-based box. They're living inside of a limited perspective, and the outer world does have power over them because they've given it to them. Now, we don't see that. We don't see that until we begin to understand our ego. The ego is one of the last things that anybody is going to really be able to see. And the ego gets spiritualized just as much as it gets religious, just as much as it gets, political, as much as it gets whatever you want to call it. So for us to be able to make a shift into the higher dimensions, the higher frequencies, which, whether you believe it or not, if you follow astronomy, if you follow astrology, if you follow numerology, we have shifted. Humanity has shifted. Our planet has shifted. We are moving. There is a circular process that is taking place. Actually, it's a spiral of expansion, and our planet has shifted. It is not operating in the density of the old ways, the ways of the 3D world, where we were always pulling from our planet for self-serving reasons, because that's what the ego does. When the ego was serving money as its master, and we were operating in alignment with our ego, not really listening to our soul that much, we basically have decimated our planet. We have polluted it. We have polluted our food. The medical world, it's not necessarily all good stuff out there. The education system is about dumbing down the mind. The government is so corrupt. It's a self-serving. Religion was feeding us lies, telling us God was outside of us, that we were sinners, we were not connected to God. So the ego has made this world of corruption and of density. To be able to ascend into the frequencies of love, you've got to face what has been running the world. And guess what? What's been running the world out there comes from what's inside. When we give power to these groups, to a few, we are complicit in creating a very dense world that only works for few. It does not work for the majority. So as I began to shift and move out of the world having power over me, I began to see more clearly what's going on. That's what happens to everybody. When you're not judging, you can be open-minded. When you are not shaming others or blaming others, you can become very gentle. You can become very defenseless, and you can see more clearly what's happening. I was in a place in 2020 where I had to take a step back from a lot of the work that I was doing. I only kept my coaching clients, and I began to let go of some of my classes, and I kept one which was a year-long program called Spiritual Mastery, where we work with embodying the characteristics of a teacher of God as taught in A Course in Miracles. And that was a beautiful, beautiful class. Now, some people dropped out because the Course says, few really want to understand the truth, and even fewer will get to the place where they really come to know their oneness with God. That's just the way that it is. The world of the ego has a whole lot of power over us until we decide to disempower it, which is what awakening is all about. This is a trajectory to awaken that takes, oh my gosh, lifetimes. And in one life, it can take many, many decades. I know I've been on this journey for 2 decades. So I use a couple of teachings. One of them is the book Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins. It teaches the map of consciousness, that we have to move through levels of consciousness. The 3rd dimension of consciousness, into the 4th dimension of consciousness, into the 5th dimension of consciousness. I also use the teachings by Abraham Hicks, which speaks to the emotional scale, fear, powerlessness at the bottom, and we work our way through the density of our emotions until we free ourselves and operate in the realm of love. So I take those 2 teachings, combine them with the Course in Miracles, and everything matches up perfectly. To be able to undo your ego, you've got to be outside of the dimension of the ego. Your mind has to have been expanded enough to recognize you're not your identity. You're not what you believe about yourself and others. You are not your career. You're not your money. You are not anything that you're attached to in the world. That's why there's a beautiful book called The Untethered Soul. And the author escapes me. It'll come to me later on. And the untethered soul is one who has untethered itself from the constraints of the density of the ego. Michael Singer wrote that book. So this line that we have to all cross is the line of pride. This is the line where who I am is real versus what is real in me has to be what God is. And it is a non-physical eternal energy, because all of this is happening in the mind of God. Now, I have come to recognize the truth for me that the Course in Miracles teaches, and I try to embody it as much as I possibly can. When I say that I'm in the world but not of it, is because I know I am in the mind of God. I know that all of this is energy. I know all of this is consciousness. I am playing in the world, as is everybody else, whether they know it or not. I'm playing with energy. This is a dance of energy, of dark energy, of light energy. The world is operating inside of a delusion, an illusion that we are separate from one another, that I am my possessions, I am what I get, and that has us believe that power exists outside of us. If I have to protect what I have and my identity, somebody else can take it from me. When we move, when we shift and we lift into recognizing that this is all a dance of energy, there is a freedom that happens, because in this realm, freedom is the prized possession. If you're going to have a possession, you want freedom. Because in freedom, which God has given us free will, in freedom, we recognize that we have to free everybody else to believe what they want to believe, because just like me, they're powerful creators. Just like me, they're experiencing suffering, they're experiencing a desire for happiness. Just like me, they are a soul who chose to descend into darkness and have an experience of what it's all about, knowing full well that there would be other souls that would assist us in remembering the truth of who we are. That's why spiritual teachers are those who had spiritual experiences, and we teach to help others. So I get it that there is a process taking place. And all of us can only teach from the level that we are at. I cannot take somebody beyond where I've been. So a teacher that serves us here cannot help us move here. A teacher that serves us to get to there cannot take us beyond that. A teacher that takes us to there cannot take you beyond that. Where I can take you is beyond your ego. I absolutely know that I can teach you how to transcend your ego, to free yourself, to untether your soul. That I know I can teach you. How to live it like Jesus in a place of total and complete fearlessness, where you are the one who is affecting miracles every place you walk. I've got a ways to go. But I am not afraid of death. I am not afraid of a virus. I am not afraid of the government. I am not afraid of anything external to me, because I'm not defined by this physical body. I am one with God. I know that I am energy. My work is to create heaven on earth. My work is to connect with those that I have found. I have found an incredible community, a community that's operating in that level of consciousness, that really understands the gift economy, understands that we are here to create a new earth. The world the ego has made is a world that is projected. We project power out there, so that has the power to hurt us or to keep us safe. We've given that power. We have to pull that power back, release our fears from the external world, move past our pride, get over ourselves, and enter into the realm where we own that we are powerful creators. We are the magnificent creators, a child of God. We are wholly, whole, and complete. To be able to accept that with humbleness, with the grace that descends upon us when we activate a knowingness, and God is all that there is, and it is speaking through us and using us. To be able to do that, we have got to connect with those who are at that level, who have moved beyond the density, because the 5D world is not out there. It's not anything solid. It is something that we create. We will project, as the Course says, a happy dream. We've projected a nightmare that doesn't work for everybody here. This is about projecting a happy dream. We've got to want good for everybody. Power has to remain here. We have to set all beings free. We cannot be operating with dogma. We cannot be operating with rules and regulations that work for some but not for others. This is a realm where our freedom comes by understanding that we are all equal. Created, as the Constitution says, we're all endowed by our Creator with the same inalienable rights of life, liberty, which is freedom, and happiness. Course in Miracles says that our purpose is to be happy, and we are eternal, so life is eternal. There's no death in the Course in Miracles. And freedom, liberty, that's our free will. So we can create a world that works for a few, or we can create a world that works for everybody. In my decision to follow Trump is because I began to see the corruption that is taking place in this world in a much clearer way. For the 19 years that I have been on this journey, I've been watching corruption. I've been understanding how the medical system got so corrupt, how the food industry polluted us with fast foods, with GMOs. I began to understand how the education system only gives us so much information. I began to see how the government operates and how the rich get richer and the rest of us get poorer. I began to see how religion taught me to not love God the way I naturally am created to love God. I was taught to fear God, a punishing God. I saw how the world trained me into wanting money. Get educated, get more degrees, make more money. You have more money, you get the corner office, you get a bigger house. You get more debt, you get the bigger car. It was all about more. Well, until I got beyond my pride and put down who I thought I was and came to know who God knows me to be. It's a big journey of releasing, of surrendering, of humbleness. Oh my gosh, it's an amazing thing that happens when we get over ourselves. I entered into the place where I know we're all equal. But I know that you are powerful even if you are afraid of COVID. I know you are powerful even if you're afraid of whoever's going to be the next president. A lot of people are in terror about Biden winning or Trump winning. I have no fear. I don't care who wins. I really don't, because I trust the creative source. I trust that there is something happening here that is holding all of us safely. I just happen to firmly believe, because of the research that I've done, that Biden got us to a certain level and Trump is moving us beyond that. Biden's had 47 years. What has really changed? This country has gone backwards. We're becoming poorer. We've got more people incarcerated. We've got more people in drugs. We've got more people who have lost jobs. How is that movement forward? It's not. But to me, Trump is movement forward because it is breaking the old paradigms. We have got to move beyond our idea of ourselves, our idea of how things should be for me, and move to what is possible when we go to another dimension. Is Trump going to move us to that? No. Trump is going to break down what blocks us from being able to expand. We have other future politicians, younger, more in tune with the higher frequencies, that understand that this is not about bodies. This is about vibration. This is not about personality. It's about frequency. So as we attune more to the higher frequency of love, we inevitably begin to be kinder and gentler, more helpful to one another. So we are breaking down a world the ego has made. But you cannot transcend the ego until you see one of the most heart-wrenching parts of this journey is to recognize that we've created this world. That drug use out there, we're complicit in it because we have addictions. We can't even be with ourselves. We have to numb ourselves. We have to drink wine. We have to have people tell us how wonderful we are. We've got shopping addictions. We've got workaholic addictions. We need something to make us feel better. We've got to see that if there's drug use out there, we are part of it. We've got to recognize, if you have to run to the drugstore to get your legal drugs, it's no different than somebody who has to run out and get their illegal drugs. It's the same thing. We're looking for something to numb our discomfort. The pedophilia, the child trafficking, why is that happening? We've got to see that we've projected out there the destruction of the innocence of our being because we're not in touch with our own inner child. We're not in touch with the innocence inside of ourselves. So we project the hurting of the innocence out there because we're hurting inside. We also have to look at the love of money, the corruption. It's all based on money. It's all based on greed, based on power, sex, drugs, rock and roll, you name it. If it's happening out there, it's because it's projected from in here. It is very difficult to take what is happening and look at it with honesty that says, I made that. For me, shifting from 2010 to 2016 to be able to move beyond my prideful, egoic, spiritualized ego self and look at the world outside. I created another divorce. I created, my son's addiction. I'm part of that. I projected it. It's okay to take full responsibility and recognize that if you don't see how powerful you are, that you made a world of darkness, you can't harness that same energy to create a world based on light. We've got to pull our power back, which means we have to unplug every one of these systems, which, by the way, they're breaking down. Whether we like it or not, there is a movement. We are ascending. We don't have to like it or believe in this. We are ascending. That means humanity is moving from kindergarten. We've moved into elementary school. It's time for us to graduate into middle school. Most people are barely going to get out of elementary school and move into middle school. Some of us are already in high school. There are some beyond me that are in college or mastery programs, if you want to look at it that way. But I know for me, I understand the ego because I faced mine. I know my ego. It's the voice that tells me I'm better than. It's the voice that tells me I'm righteous. It's the voice that tells me, they're to blame. They did this to me. They have power over me. They're going to make me safe. It's their responsibility to financially take care of me. I had all those beliefs that men were going to, husbands were going to take care of me, that the government was going to provide for me, that medicine was going to heal me, that the church, religion, when I accepted their beliefs, it was going to save me. I had to listen to every one of those voices and let them go. They don't give me anything. I came with everything. When we humble ourselves before God and we hollow our mind from all of the beliefs that we have, we are given a power that it's indescribable. When I felt this for the first time in 2007, my life was changed forever. But it took me quite a while to get to the point that I could let go of my prideful self. Because as long as we believe that we're right and others are wrong, pride is involved. Now, I understand with my right mind what is true for God. I stand for God's truth. And that is that everybody's creating the world that they see because everybody is a powerful creator creating their own reality. I don't tell somebody, oh, you shouldn't be creating COVID for yourself. No, I don't say that to them. My old ego might have, but I recognize that they're a powerful creator. So if they want to be in fear, that's okay. Let them be in fear. That's what they want to experience as a powerful creator. When you understand that you create your own reality, you then begin to be committed to create a reality that works for you and for all. Because when we realize that we're energy and we realize we are one, you don't want something for another that you don't want for yourself. I want all beings to be free. I want all beings to experience life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is in our Constitution. It's in A Course in Miracles. It's our birthright. So 2020, boy, was it full of lessons for me. I had to let go of my limitation inside of the spiritual community. I've got to move beyond that. There are lots of people, you don't have to be spiritual to want to connect with God. I had to let go of believing that, I had to let go of believing completely that I'm a body so that I could accept the power been given to me by God to activate the well-being that I want to experience. Now, does my mind still believe that I have a body? To a certain level, yes, I still feed it, I still exercise it, I brush its teeth, I do all of these things. But this is really a vessel that I am traveling in this world in. Because I'm not attached to my body anymore. What I am free to do is to be in this world, but not of it. I do not fear COVID. I do not fear the government. I do not fear anything of this world. I don't need the government to keep me safe. I don't need anything here to sustain me. I have a connection with God, and that is my source of sustenance. That is what to me allows me to feel peace. 2021 is the year where the things that have been coming to the surface in 2020 to be exposed, the corruption, the absolute incredible mind control that's been happening in this world, all of those things are coming to the surface. 2021 is a year for those who are on the other side of the line to be able to see clearly what has been happening. We are going to be observing a lot of people going through a lot of turmoil. When those who are in fear see that fear has been activated deliberately, when those who have been siding and standing for a certain politician and they see the corruption of that politician, they're going to stand in total and complete terror that they could have been bamboozled in that way after they go through a denial period and then a lot of anger. When those who thought that they were so religious or so spiritual or so connected to God, when they realized that they really weren't, that they really were believing the world had more power than God, there's going to be a lot of guilt, there's going to be a lot of shame. My work is to help people see their ego so that they can learn how to forgive themselves because they knew not what they were doing when they gave power to the world outside of them. My work in 2021 is to bring in a gentle, benevolent, loving, and in many ways lighthearted way to give people an opportunity to understand A Course in Miracles so that they can apply it into their lives and free themselves from a lot of what's coming. We are going to see how the world has enslaved because we've been listening to the ego. We've been enslaved. That's not an easy pill to swallow, especially not for Americans. We've been controlled. That's not an easy pill to swallow for those who think that we're in the land of the free. Our military, our government has been doing horrendous things, and we've been paying for it. So we've been complicit in it. Not to shame ourselves, but to understand that when you're not aligned with God and you're operating in sovereignty, you're aligned with the ego and you're operating inside of the realm of slavery. Not an easy word for most people to understand, but when you are judging another person, you are not using your right mind. You are using your left mind. Your wrong mind, your egoic thinking is what has been activated. And any judgment does not come from the heart. It comes from a controlled mind. All love, all compassion, all kindness, all freedom comes from a heart that seeks not to control anybody else, but rather to liberate and free one another. So 2020, big year for me. Lots of shifts, lots of accepting that God has called me into a greater role for me. I am going to be creating programs in 2021 that are going to be allowing people to learn about the Course in Miracles. I'm going to create some basic classes. I'm going to create some very advanced courses. I am going to be taking students who are very, very deep in their journey and are really willing. That you got to get really curious. You don't necessarily have to be a Course in Miracles student, but you've got to be really, really open-minded about questioning your beliefs. If you think you are right and you're trying to defend it, your ego has control of you completely. That's just the way that it is. But if you no longer want to be right and you want to be at peace, then I am more than happy to teach you what I know. We're going to start the deeper studies with in the Course in Miracles in chapter 11 of the text, where we're going to talk about, are you going to choose God or the ego? Are you going to shift from your original true knowingness that you are a soul and drift into the density of the ego? Or are you going to shift and lift into the reality of God? Are you prepared to accept how powerful you are so that you can begin to disempower the world that you help make? Or are you going to stay here and be one of the light chasers that's not prepared to look at its dark side? That's okay too. That is perfectly okay too. That's why Debbie Ford Cole wrote one of the most powerful books, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers. Most of us who enter the spiritual journey, we want, butterflies and unicorns and we want crystals and seek the light, but we don't want to see the darkness because it's nice to move into the light. But you can't transcend your ego if you don't cut off its supply, and its supply, and it comes from our pain body, is attachments to external circumstances, attachment to the body. You cannot transcend into the light while this is what runs your life. So I will give classes for anybody who wants to see their ego. I am committed to help anybody transcend their ego if they're willing to be happy and peaceful instead of right. That's the one prerequisite. You have to have the willingness to get curious about the truth of who you are and everybody else is. This is why judgment drops away when you operate at the level of consciousness that is, when you're listening to your soul, there's nobody to judge because nobody's doing anything wrong. We're just playing a game of light, dark and light. That's it. It's the dance of energy. There's nobody to blame, nobody to judge. But there is a responsibility that takes hold to help our brothers and sisters come out of this dark cave, come out of the shackles that have been placed, and they're invisible shackles because they're all in our mind. It's absolutely amazing. I had no idea how in bondage, in slavery I was to shopping, to acquiring, to money, to my body looking a certain way, until I began to look at all of those things and understand the ego's role in that. So to know more about my work, to get more involved with my classes, go to my website, lainaorlando.com. There is a free e-course on there. It's a master series called The Soul's Journey. It will show you the 6 stages that we go through, 6 phases. We come in as love, we descend as children, get programmed, and then go on to control the world when our ego becomes fairly solid, fairly entrenched, and we have an I am personality separate from everything else. And then the journey to get curious, to unlearn what we learned, and then to gain the wisdom so that we can be in the world but not of it. That's a free course. So go to lineorlando.com, sign up for that. You're going to be on my newsletter list. And then I'll be mentioning my courses through my newsletters, but also you can find me on social media or YouTube. I'm wherever, lineorlando.com. My commitment is to share with you what has helped me change my life. This may not be for you, and that's okay. Move on. If this resonates with you and you want to shift and lift, join me. I'm going to be doing a lot of Zooms. I'm going to take advantage of what I learned in this year of last year, 2020, that I can connect with people anywhere. It doesn't have to just be in person. Actually, Zoom worked perfectly. I am committed to one thing and one thing only, and that is to give what I have received. That is to share what has transformed me. It is to help activate the Christ consciousness that is inside all of us, but we can't live from that space until we dismantle our ego. We have to transcend the ego so we can end the trance that we have been in. 2021 is going to rock our worlds because systems are breaking down. They're not sustainable. There's too much light on the planet. Too many of us are seeing clearly the illusion that has been created of separation, and our light is bright enough that we are calling out what is not okay, what is dark and dense and is hurting our brothers and sisters. I can no longer be in this world knowing what's happening and not be a participant in the dismantling of the processes, and they pretty much stay in power through our vote. So I have got to do everything that I can to vote out what is in the world and appears to have power over my brothers and sisters, because I am one with all of you. So I'm doing my part to change what's happening in the world, taking responsibility for deliberately dismantling what is hurting others and deliberately teaching how to create a new earth. That process happens in tandem. The more you understand what blocks your truth, the more you free yourself to be the essence of who you are. Thank you so much for listening to this. If it touches you, share it with others. And if you want to join me, again, go to lainaorlando.com, get the free e-course. You'll be on my newsletter list. Join me on Facebook. Join me on my YouTube channel. I put all kinds of information out there because I love sharing. We are one. I know that. That's why I love you, and I want to share what has worked for me. Thank you so much. Namaste.